All right, welcome to Hoops Tonight here at The Volume. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Hope all of you guys are having a great week so far. Jam-packed show for you today. We're going to go throwback style. We're just going to do instant reaction videos. We're going to hit on 4 games from the perspective of all 8 teams. A very, very exciting early season Monday night in the NBA last night. We're going to hit Clippers-Knicks, James Harden's debut alongside Russell Westbrook with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, which did not go particularly well. The Minnesota Timberwolves handed the Boston Celtics their first loss of the season in what was a highly entertaining game, capped off by an Anthony Edwards barrage in the fourth quarter. And then the Lakers and the Warriors at the tail end of the show. We got the Lakers going on the road and losing back-to-back games last night to the Miami Heat. And then the Golden State Warriors notching a win on the tail end of a back-to-back in Detroit against the Pistons as Chris Paul gets his offense going. All right, 4 games, 8 teams. No mailbag questions today. We'll be getting to those later in the week. You guys know the drill before we get started. Subscribe to our brand new YouTube channel. It would mean a lot to me if you guys took a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget about our podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts, under Hoops Tonight. Social media, especially Twitter, but also TikTok and Instagram. I upload a lot of video clips on there as well as show announcements. During my film sessions, I'm basically putting every interesting clip that I find on Twitter. It's a great way to kind of follow along with my film sessions and to get a visual representation of some of the things that we talk about on the show. And then last but not least, don't forget mailbag questions. Keep dropping those in the YouTube comments so we can hit them at the end of these shows. All right, let's talk some basketball. So Clippers-Knicks. Close game for the most part throughout until a big Knicks run in the fourth quarter that put it away. Dante DiVincenzo in particular sparked the run, had a big play at the point of attack where he got a steal and then a run-out layup over Russell Westbrook. Big play where he was in the left corner on a missed 3 on the right wing where he crashed the offensive glass, caught James Harden sleeping, got the offensive rebound, made a kickoff pass, sprinted all the way around to the right wing, and then knocked down a 3. And then he made a tightly contested corner 3 over a James Harden contest later on. RJ Barrett was also big in the run. Julius Randle kind of sort of started to get his rhythm back. It's been kind of a mixed bag from the Knicks so far this year on the offensive end of the floor, especially from the standpoint of their stars, which we'll get to in a minute. But that was a big-time win for the Knicks coming back in that fourth quarter to basically just slam the door shut on the Clippers. Their defense has been excellent this season. They're second in defensive rating, 9th in half-court defense, according to Cleaning the Glass. Second best team in the league right now in defending the paint. They're allowing the second fewest points in the paint per 100 possessions, and they are first in rebounding. Make no mistake, this team is a royal pain in the ass to deal with in the physicality areas of the game. It's their best trait, but they're 3-4 right now on the year in the standings, in large part because of their issues on offense. They're 28th in offensive rating, and it's all about shot creation. They're actually shooting the ball better, at least from the standpoint of attacking closeouts in off-ball situations, than they did last year by a lot. They're 10th in spot-up efficiency so far. It's not a question about finishing plays. It's a question about getting the defense into rotation and that initial bit of shot making. And both Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson came into the year just out of rhythm, out of shape, injured. I'm not sure what the deal was, but both of them kind of came in a shell of themselves. Jalen Brunson kind of sort of got it together for a couple games, but then he had a rough night last night. And then Julius Randle has been historically bad to start the year, and then he finally gets it going last night, but it happens to be on the night when Jalen Brunson kind of doesn't have it going. And, RJ Barrett's been good, 22 points per game on 60% true shooting, but almost all of that damage is being done in catch and shoot situations or attacking closeouts. He's 69% in effective field goal percentage on catch and shoot jump shots and is converting spot up possessions at 1.35 points per possession, which is outstanding, but he's not doing much of anything, at least in terms of efficiency on the ball. So at the end of the day, this Knicks team, and this is basically what I've been saying for years now, but you guys remember that was the big thing going into last year's playoff run. I said, as long as Randle and Brunson can play like superstars, they're very, very, very good. And at various points over the last couple years, both of them have done so. Jalen Brunson basically produced like a superstar in the playoffs last year. That's why I had him so high in my player rankings. And Julius Randle, at various points, a lot last year, a lot 3 years ago, not so much the year in between, not so much in the playoffs last year, but Julius Randle has that capability as well and is like a really nice, kind of like counterpunch to what Jalen Brunson provides in terms of his ability to match up attack and get closer to the rim, do work on the offensive glass, etc. So again, I would argue that it's a very, very good foundation this year for the Knicks, an even better foundation than last year. The Dante DiVincenzo pickup has been a home run for their point of attack defense. In general, this team is just so much more physically imposing than they were last year, at least in terms of their production defensively, but they're just not getting enough out of their stars, and that's going to be the thing to keep an eye on over the course of this season. For the Clippers, wasn't pretty. I didn't like the offense with James Harden. It was a lot of, I was talking with Sam Vecini from The Athletic about this yesterday. We went for an hour hitting a bunch of stuff. I tweeted that link out, so I highly recommend you guys check that out. Sam's great. He's going to be coming on our show at some point in the next couple weeks too. But we were talking about how James Harden is kind of obsessed with running pick and roll with centers. I think there's a couple of specific reasons why. First of all, he likes working with really good screeners. Second of all, he likes working against drop coverage. And you're more likely to face a drop coverage against a big man than you are against a wing. Why? It's simple personnel and game plan. A lot of times a team will go out on the floor and they'll be like, hey, we're switching 1 through 4. And when they set ball screens with the point guard, we want to hedge and recover so that we don't switch a guard onto a bigger defender, right? But then they'll be like, the big man is going to run a drop with some sort of qualifier in terms of the level of the screen, like how far they're going up into the drop coverage, as far and then the backside help, like how hard they're going to be helping off the weak side. So there's like little details about that, but for the most part, it's going to be a drop coverage with a big, some kind of drop coverage with a big, and it's going to be some sort of like other coverage, a switch or a hedge and recover in some sort of any sort of guard screen or guard wing screen. So that's why Harden always kind of targets big men in his ball screens. And he ran 19 pick and rolls in this game, resulting in 23 points, super productive, 1.21 points per possession. That's what James Harden does. I just would like to eventually see him run some of that stuff, particularly with Kawhi, but also Paul George and Russ as well. Just running more of the guard action, guard wing action, particularly Kawhi. He's so good at that like high post face-up game that like I love the idea of almost using him the way they used Embiid and like setting him up at the foul line. If teams run some sort of hedge and recover or drop, you're going to get wide open pocket passes to Kawhi at the foul line. If they switch it, you're putting a small onto Kawhi Leonard, who's going to eat that person alive at the foul line, right? If you blitz James Harden, you're giving Kawhi Leonard a 4-on-3 on the backside. So like it's just really, really difficult to guard that action. And so I'd like to see them do that. But all of the 19 pick and rolls, there was one PJ Tucker ball screen in there, and then the rest of them were all the centers, Zubac, Plumlee, and Moussa Diabate after Plumlee got hurt. So that was just interesting. But like for the most part, you can imagine if James Harden's going to run a big pick and roll with the center, everyone else is just kind of standing around, right? And you saw that with the starters, and then Ty Lue went out of his way to kind of like make sure that James Harden got a bunch of possessions without any of the stars out there so that he could just kind of play Harden ball, and he definitely had some success there. Harden himself looked great. He's 5 for 8 on jump shots. I think that's a really good sign that he has his legs underneath him. There were a couple in there too that were like really tough step back jump shots, including a tough step back mid-range jump shot. I think there's 2 mid-range jump shots actually. So like those are all good signs about where he's at in terms of his body. But I would like to see just a little bit more movement with the starters, and then a lot more James Harden initiating in ball screens with the other stars in the ball screen action with him. One thing to keep an eye on, the late game Harden snafus. So there was 2 plays in particular that stood out during the Knicks run when things went bad. It was an 8-point game at one point, and then I mentioned the Dante DiVincenzo offensive rebound out of the left corner that led to the 3 on the right wing. On that play, James Harden just straight up didn't box out. Like he just kind of meandered into the lane and wasn't even paying attention, and Dante DiVincenzo looped around the backside for an offensive rebound. Both Harden and Russ are 2 of the least aware stars in the league from the standpoint of off-ball, tracking shooters, boxing out crashers from the perimeter, things like that. That's a weak point for them. We saw in the Laker-Clipper game the 2 times that Russell Westbrook just got beat backdoor because he just wasn't paying attention by D'Angelo Russell. We saw the missed box out in this particular game. There's another play where like James Harden was guarding RJ Barrett in a ball screen on the left wing, and RJ Barrett's a lefty. I tweeted this link out, so you can find this link on my Twitter feed, but you can see James Harden turn completely sideways, so his body is effectively perpendicular to Barrett, and he's kind of like leaning on the Hartenstein ball screen, and he's got his back turned to RJ Barrett's left hand. Now, I think what Harden's trying to do in this situation is basically get physically in position, basically with his hands on Hartenstein, to quickly do a swim move to duck under the pick so he can meet RJ Barrett on the other side. Chances are they're probably in the scouting report going under against RJ Barrett because he's shooting terribly on pull-up jump shots. I think he's like 3 for 13 on pull-up jump shots this year, right? So like, that's probably what they're going for. But RJ Barrett's also one of the best left-hand drivers in the league, and so he just does a rip through to the left and beats him to the basket, makes a little floater off the glass. And it's like, this is the thing. When you've got Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, it's actually very, very important to have guys that are good with the dirty work. Not that Paul George and Kawhi can't contribute there, but like their top-tier shot creation makes it so that the top-tier shot creation of the other players on the floor is less valuable and role player contributions are more valuable. That was the interesting direction that this went. And it doesn't mean it can't work. It just means, for the same thing with the Suns, with Devin Booker and Bradley Beal, all of these stars have to embrace the dirty work. James Harden and Russell Westbrook are going to have to be better defensive players, better rebounders in general in terms of their off-ball awareness in order for this team to reach its eventual ceiling. But again, first game, sloppy too. NBA teams aren't practicing a lot during the regular season, so not trying to overreact to anything. Lots to be encouraged about, just a lot of stuff that the Clippers are going to have to sharpen up over the course of the season. Big win for the Knicks, though. They're due for they're a couple wins away from getting a deep dive, especially with how good that defense is. NBA fans, the wait is over. Basketball is back, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is celebrating with an unbeatable offer. New customers can score $200 instantly in bonus bets for throwing down $5 on the NBA. Win or lose, it doesn't matter. You'll start the season with an instant dub. And with DraftKings parlays, everyone's got a shot at an even bigger basketball win. String together multiple bets from the same game or build your parlay across multiple games for a shot at making your payday even sweeter. Basketball's more fun when you're in on the action. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code HOOPS. That's HOOPS. New customers can get $200 in bonus bets instantly for betting just $5. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code HOOPS. The crown is yours.
Don't miss the action this weekend when the NFL heads to Germany for the Frankfurt games. These games will air on the NFL Network. I'll be watching and stream on NFL Plus. Again, streaming on NFL Plus. For a limited time, Verizon customers can get Netflix Plus, NFL Plus for just $25 a month with Plus Play. That's $120 in annual savings. Plus Play is a platform where Verizon customers can shop, manage, and save on the subscriptions you already have, like NFL Plus. With NFL Plus Premium, you get access to games on mobile, NFL Red Zone, NFL Network, which means you can catch the Frankfurt games and more. Just go to Verizon.com/thevolume to bundle and save before the game. Hurry, this offer ends soon. Again, that's Verizon.com/thevolume.
In sports, the scoreboard doesn't tell the full story, but Netflix does. Stories about dads who happen to be world-class quarterbacks, untold tales of athletes you thought you knew, the heart-racing pressure for the heart, soul, and survival of the multi-billion-dollar business of F1, stories about college kids who were given a last chance at redemption, David Beckham's meteoric rise to not only becoming a global soccer phenomenon, but also becoming one of the biggest celebrity couples in pop culture. From upsets to injuries, from comebacks to victories, we get to see it all with Netflix Sports. These are the stories that turn us all into fans and give everyone something to cheer for, to feel for, to hold your breath for, and to get up out of your seat for. Whether you're a diehard fan or you're brand new, with shows like F1 Drive to Survive, Quarterback, Full Swing, Untold, Beckham, and so many more, Netflix has the stories for every type of fan. Netflix turns us all into fans. All right, moving on to Celtics-Wolves. Such an unbelievably entertaining regular season game. Tatum and Ant were just battling down the stretch of the game, talking shit to each other, getting in each other's faces, guarding each other one-on-one. I thought Tatum was magnificent down the stretch in this game, especially in the fourth quarter. It's interesting because there was a lot to kind of look at that was like Derek White was out, right? So Al Horford had to to start and close the game, which ended up being a big problem. Anthony Edwards basically attacked Al Horford in overtime. We're going to talk about that. So, like, from the basketball standpoint, it's a loss. There were some issues with the late game offense again, mainly in overtime, just shot selection, a little bit of like your turn, my turn. Like there was Drew Holiday just didn't have it going, and he just co-opted an overtime possession to try to bully Mike Conley to the rim, and he missed the shot. But like that's the thing with Drew Holiday, like he's kind of prone to those 4 for 16 type of nights, you know. So a lot of negative with Boston, but I was so impressed by Jason Tatum strictly from the standpoint of how well he handled the Jaden McDaniels matchup, because Jaden McDaniels, in my opinion, is the best perimeter defender in the league. That's something that I've kind of come around on over the course of the start of the season. And in addition to that, like the outstanding rim protection of that Minnesota Timberwolves team, for him to consistently kind of get to his spots, he's put on so much muscle. It's another thing we talked about with Sam Vecini, this idea of like Tatum just kind of turning into a bigger and stronger player, and how that has allowed him to not only compete defensively and on the glass, but to dislodge players when he's fighting for position. There were 2 plays, I put both of these on my Twitter feed, where Tatum was able to like drop his shoulder and like bump Jaden McDaniels off and get really quality looks at mid-range jump shots, which are like really reliable shots to go to at the end of games when things really bog down and it's hard to generate openings. So like really, really impressive down the stretch from Tatum, as he brought the Timberwolves kind of back into things the Celtics back into things after the Timberwolves went up by 7 or so in the fourth quarter. But then Ant just took over the game in overtime. It's funny because he got several of the same looks at the end of regulation on pull-up jump shots, and he missed them. But then he got them in overtime, and he made them all. And like a pretty consistent theme: get into a ball screen and then take advantage of Al Horford being on his heels, either in a drop coverage or in a switch. Now, again, in both situations, Al Horford has to give ground, and that's also in the scouting report. You'd rather concede a pull-up jump shot to Anthony Edwards. He's shooting really, really well. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but in terms of the scouting report, that's just the best option. If you can get Ant to settle, you've done your job as a defensive player. Well, Al Horford has to give up too much ground, and Ant was just rising up into these quality pull-up jump shots over the top, and he just made them all in OT, aside from one kind of random prayer that he heaved up at the very end, right? But what's funny is I talked a lot about what got me excited about this Minnesota Timberwolves team coming into this season. I talked about it with Chris Mannix from here at the Volume. We did a whole thing. I told him I thought the Wolves were going to be a top 5 defense, and he disagreed with me. A lot of people were down on the Wolves in general, but like to me, it's just a simple combination of like what Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, Kyle Anderson, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, what those guys are capable of as perimeter defenders, alongside true rim protection in Rudy Gobert, sets the stage for what can be a truly dominant defense. And the Wolves were they had a 101 defensive rating, first in the NBA after last night. 82 points per 100 half-court possessions. That's first in the NBA per cleaning the glass. Fourth in paint points allowed per 100 possessions. So they're locking down the paint. 62% opponent shooting in the restricted area. That's 6th best in the NBA. They forced the 10th most turnovers per 100 possessions. They have allowed the 10th fewest three-pointers made per 100 possessions. They have allowed the 3rd lowest opponent three-point percentage. They are 9th in rebounding. So they're basically top 10 in every major defensive category. The one area of opportunity is transition defense. They're in that bottom third, kind of in that like 15 to 20 range. So that's the one area of opportunity. Not to be not too shocked by that, just simply by the fact that they're playing a too big system. Especially with Naz Reid kind of cycling through there. So with 2 bigs on the floor, most of the time you're going to struggle in transition just in terms of foot speed. But they've been really, really good defensively. Now, offense, you don't need them to be great if they're going to be that great on defense. You just need them to be good enough, and then you need Ant to carry you home in crunch time. 18th in offense, that's been good. That's the identity, right? All-world defense, good enough on offense with Ant carrying you home. I told you guys before the season I really wanted to see Anthony Edwards weaponize his driving rim pressure, gravity, whatever you want to call it, more this year as a passer. And it was really encouraging to me to see him make a couple of really good late game reads to Jaden McDaniels on the weak side. There was one on the left wing or left corner where he was isolating Kristaps Porzingis and got him to leave his feet on a pump fake, ripped through to the right into the middle, and hit Jaden McDaniels in the shooting pocket for a big-time three-point shot. on the right wing. And then there was another one that actually tied the game late where he just drove hard to his right, and Jaden McDaniels was in the corner, and he drew strong side corner help, which you're definitely not supposed to do if you're the Celtics. But again, that's the type of rim gravity that Anthony Edwards has. Easy swing pass to Jaden McDaniels for another big three-pointer. And so like that to me is a great indicator of just some of the bigger lessons that Anthony Edwards is learning about how to make the game easier on himself. Like, dude, you're a freak. You're one of the best players in the league, and everyone's going to overreact to what you're doing. So if you can weaponize that to make good reads and generate quality shots, it's going to help your team in the big picture. And then it kind of helps you get single coverage opportunities more frequently late in the game for you to be able to knock down shots. Jaden McDaniels, big late game isolation move on Kristaps Porzingis into the lane. Kristaps kind of tripped. It looked like he stepped on Gobert's foot as he was kind of backpedaling into the lane, but that's kind of thing, like you take him off the dribble and get him into traffic where it's a little bit more difficult for him to navigate. And Jaden McDaniels is just really good with that little pop shot, that little kind of short range pull-up jump shot. He's 7 for 13 this year on catch-and-shoot jump shots and 6 for 12 on pull-up jump shots. So getting some big-time offensive contribution from Jaden McDaniels, and with everything he does defensively, that's really, really exciting. On the Celtics front, again, a little bit of an example of what they can deal with in terms of a lack of depth when one of their 5 core guys gets hurt. Not that Horford's not a good depth piece there, but he's certainly a drop in terms of overall athleticism, right? And like no matter who they put in that 5th spot when guys are out, it's going to be someone who's either a really good offensive player with defensive limitations or a guy who's a decent athlete that has offensive limitations. And it ended up being the entry point for Anthony Edwards to target. So it just goes to show you how health is going to be an important factor for the Celtics this year. Really, really encouraged by Jason Tatum's play overall. Just continuing to play like an MVP. They use him as a screener a lot down the stretch of this game, which I thought was interesting with Drew Holiday. There was a play where he got the ball in a short roll and threw the ball out of bounds. And instead of going away from that action, they just went right back to it. The second time they ran it, Anthony Edwards tagged Tatum as the roller, which left Jaylen Brown wide open in the corner for the 3 that actually put the Celtics up by 3 late, the one that before Jaden McDaniels tied it. It's actually a great example of just how easy offense can be for the Celtics when Tatum's involved, and how they don't necessarily have to generate rim pressure through the ball, right? So we think about Tatum beating people off the dribble, drawing multiple defenders and kicking. But one of the best ways, and we talked about this a lot last year too, but one of the best ways for the Celtics to start their offense is Tatum slipping ball screens, because he's just such a good passer out of that short roll. He didn't even make a pass on this play, but the defense reacted to him, which is what generated the opening for Jaylen Brown out of the weak side corner. So again, no one's going undefeated this year. It's a tough road game against the best defense in the league and one of the best young players in the league. Celtics dropped this one, but I thought they impressed in a lot of ways along the way. All right, a couple quick hitters on Warriors, Pistons, and Lakers Heat. So classic kind of Warriors physical dominance game in Detroit against the Pistons. They get 17 offensive rebounds, leading to 26 second chance points. Allowed them to overcome a kind of a pedestrian offensive game from Klay Thompson and Andrew Wiggins. Those 2 guys combined for just 21 points. Andrew Wiggins is in a little bit of slump. He's averaging 11 points per game after averaging 17 the previous 2 years for Golden State. Shooting just 18% from 3. I went on with Steiny and Guru in San Francisco this morning, and we were talking about it, and they asked me what they think is going on with Andrew, or what I think is going on with Andrew Wiggins, and I don't really see too much schematically. It's just, to me, the kind of convoluted nature of the rotation, as Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga have been getting more minutes. Even Gary Payton kind of getting a lot of the closing reps instead of Andrew Wiggins. So his minutes are a little bit more sporadic, a little less consistent. And I think that in combination with Kuminga just truly playing well has affected his confidence. Once again, down the stretch of that game, big play, Steph and Jonathan Kuminga pick and roll on the left wing. He gets a switch. Steph trusts Jonathan Kuminga in a 4th quarter close game to take his smaller matchup down to the block, feed him on the post. He just hits him with a dribble move into the lane and makes a little shot over the top. That Kuminga's just playing really well and playing super confident and playing free, and Andrew Wiggins is playing kind of timid. I think you see it a lot when he's attacking the rim too. I think he's just kind of not going up with that same ferocity that we're accustomed to seeing from him, right? I don't think it's necessarily a big picture concern. It's just something that's happening right now and something to keep an eye on over the course of the season. Andrew Wiggins was the second best player on the championship team. He needs to get his confidence back. It doesn't really matter if Kuminga blossoms if your starting three-man is a shell of himself. So something to keep an eye on. We just talked yesterday about Chris Paul as a scorer, right? So they lose to Cleveland, and a big factor in that was the twin rim protectors sagging back into the paint. They forced I think Golden State shot something crazy like 12 for 31 in the paint and got absolutely demolished in the paint on both ends of the floor, right? So it was like a big problem in that particular game. And that, to me, is the closest thing we've seen in this regular season to what the Lakers series was like. Real rim protection, ignoring your non-shooters, sagging into the paint, and then top-locking and denying all of your off-ball action, which is going to force guys to back cut into your rim protection, right? So, like, that's the issue we saw. And how did the Warriors counter that in the playoffs? A lot of spread pick and roll with Steph Curry, right? And so, Chris Paul struggled again to score in that particular game, and really for the entire season coming into last night was really struggling to score the basketball. And like, that's where you need Chris. That specific matchup, that's why you got Chris. You got Chris for the top tier rim protection teams that are going to be a bad matchup for the Golden State offense as another guy who can score the damn basketball and take pressure off of Steph Curry, who can get a little fatigued when he's the only guy on the team who can put the ball in the basket, right? And so that's just something to keep an eye on, right? Well, Chris, last night in the Pistons game, kind of got it going as a scorer. 6 for 9 from the field for 17 points. More in line with what you're hoping for in production from Chris. Had a huge late bucket on a face-up in the right corner. Thought it was big time that Steph kind of trusted him and kind of prodded him to shoot the ball. It goes to show you that Steph wants this. He wants Chris to try to get some buckets, and he ended up elevating over the top and knocking down a big mid-range jump shot out of the short corner. I thought that was an encouraging game from Chris Paul. And then the crunch time defense. That was an issue a lot in the even though they were winning, that was an issue where they were kind of going bucket for bucket down the stretch of these games, and then finally Clay gets the last shot and makes it. Finally Steph gets the last shot and makes it. Well, last night, 80 defensive rating in crunch time against Detroit. They got stops. That's a good, encouraging sign of where the Warriors are heading in their crunch time defense. The Pistons, not going to talk too much about it right now. Obviously, just with the jam-packed slate, didn't have too much time to dive into them today. I do want to eventually hit on them because they've got 3 young players that have been pretty exciting this year. Asar Thompson's been one of the best perimeter defenders in the league early in the season. Obviously, extremely small sample size, but he's just an unbelievably laterally quick athlete with an uncanny ability to navigate screens. Cade Cunningham has looked like the giant playmaking forward that we've all kind of hoped he would be. And then Killian Hayes is having a really good season in terms of playmaking and taking care of the basketball. Shot the ball well yesterday as well, which is encouraging because he hasn't shot the ball well in his career. So exciting young Pistons team. We'll try to find some time to talk about them in the coming weeks. All right, moving on to Lakers Heat. So the Heat followed the game plan against the Lakers. It's kind of Anthony Davis talked about this after the Magic game, but there's kind of like an existing game plan to beat the Lakers. It's crash the offensive glass relentlessly, push the ball in transition every time you get a chance, and anytime you see one of the Lakers' smaller, unathletic guards on the perimeter and you have a chance to attack them because you're going to be able to score. And they had 11 offensive rebounds. They had 20 transition possessions. They had a steady diet of Bam, Jimmy, and even Jaime Jaquez, bullying the smaller guards and getting all the way into the basket to get to the foul line or get easy baskets, crashing the offensive glass as well. They just did a lot of damage to the Lakers, but they found themselves down 12 in the middle of the fourth quarter, and D'Angelo Russell gets ejected. Obviously, Anthony Davis hurt his hip and left the game early as well. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But they go down the stretch late with this interesting lineup with LeBron James and Austin Reeves, with Cam Reddish, Taurean Prince, and Christian Wood. And they fight back into the game, and they defend extremely well, and they make it a close game late. It's 108-107 with 2.5 minutes left. And then neither team scored the rest of the way. I mapped out every single possession here to kind of let you guys know, to separate process and results. Because a lot of times people overreact to the results when basketball has a lot of, variation in it. And sometimes you can do everything right and then not get a good result. And as long as your process is good and you continue to replicate that, then over a larger sample size, you'll get more positive outcomes, right? So first possession, 108-107 with 2.5 minutes left. LeBron James had a post up in an and one that ended up getting, I think it was against Josh Richardson, that ended up getting the game back to 1 point. So on the very next possession, the Heat run a ball screen action. The Lakers defended extremely well. Tyler Herro throws a bad lob pass that hits the top of the backboard, and the Lakers get the steal, right? The Lakers push in transition and get a wide open three for LeBron James on the left wing. He misses it. Okay, so great defense for the Lakers to force a turnover. Wide open three on the other end, they miss. Okay, next possession, Jimmy Butler challenges Christian Wood at the rim. Christian Wood gets a really good contest, and he forces an air ball. Another excellent defensive possession that gets a quality stop. The Lakers push in transition again. Kyle Lowry steps in front of LeBron and takes a charge. Kind of a winning play that Kyle Lowry's made throughout his entire career, right? They go back down the other end. Kyle Lowry shoots a pull-up three over LeBron. LeBron blocks it. It's another air ball, right? The Lakers go down the other way, and Austin kind of takes a pump fake three-point shot. A tough shot, really well contested. I think it was Tyler Herro on defense in that possession. Really, really well contested. He misses it. They go down the other way. Miami runs another pick and roll with Tyler Herro on the right wing, kind of similar to the Austin Reeves shot, like a shot that Tyler Herro is capable of making, but it was heavily contested by Austin, and he missed it. So 2 missed contested threes from the 2 guards for either team. Then they go down the other end, the Lakers, again, still 108-107, less than a minute left. And Austin Reeves runs a ghost screen with LeBron. And Kyle Lowry, Tyler Herro was guarding Austin and hedged hard on LeBron, which gave LeBron the opportunity to throw an easy behind the back pass. Hits Austin right in the shooting pocket, and it is a wide open three. And he just misses it. He just misses it, right? So then the Heat go down and they force Bam to travel at the foul line. They have him surrounded by 3 bodies. Another really good defensive possession for the Lakers. Lakers call timeout. They appear, according to some internet sleuthing, to draw up a play to get Cam Reddish a 3 in the weak side corner. Basically, LeBron beats Jimmy Butler with a hard right-hand drive, knowing he's going to draw help. He does. He draws Bam Adebayo on help. LeBron throws an absolutely perfect pass in the corner to Cam Reddish, hits him right in the shooting pocket, and he just misses the 3. So, impressive win for the Heat because you followed the game plan. You left the right guy open late on that Cam Reddish possession, right? We're going to talk more about that late game possession from the standpoint of the Lakers in a few minutes. But you followed the game plan. You did the things that you have to do to beat the Lakers. Took advantage of Anthony Davis being out of the game late, built a big enough lead for you to be able to withstand that late run and get a win. The matchup attacking. Jaime Jaquez, 9 points on 5 post-ups and ISOs so far this year. 2 for 3 on handoffs as well. So he's doing a really nice job in the Heat system, getting downhill and using his strength to get to little shots close to the basket. He is 3 for 13 on unguarded threes, though. That's one thing to keep an eye on with Jaime. 2 wins in a row for the Heat. They're up to 3-4 now. 26th in offense. All shot creation stuff. They're 24th in pick and roll efficiency, 21st in ISO efficiency. They're actually shooting the ball well in spot up situations this year, at least attacking closeouts. It's just their shot creation is always going to be an issue until whenever they decide to make a trade and get more offensive firepower in the room. We are going to do a deep dive on the Miami Heat soon. I'm not going to go too much further on them, or I'm not going to go any further on them today. On the Laker front, the final play. So, again, you have to think, first of all, LeBron James, over the course of his career, has earned a certain benefit of the doubt, especially when it comes to making the right play. Like, similar situation against the Minnesota Timberwolves in the play-in game last year. LeBron makes the exact same play, a driving kick-out pass to Dennis Schroeder in the left corner. He makes the shot. And if it wasn't for Anthony Davis fouling the three-point shooter on the next possession, that would have ended the game. They ended up winning in OT anyway. But the point is like effectively what should have been a game winner generated the exact same way. And no one ever complains when it goes in because, like I talked about earlier, people tend to play the results. And it's easy in retrospect to be like, oh, he should have thrown it to Christian Wood underneath the basket. Well, Haywood Highsmith was right behind Christian Wood and could have easily just thrown his arm up and reached from behind and poked that ball free. You throw a lob up at the basket, it's a high degree of difficulty pass. Maybe Christian Wood isn't prepared for it because maybe he's boxing out. Maybe maybe Highsmith pushes him a little bit as he jumps up and he fails to kind of gather the basketball. I saw some people saying like, oh, LeBron should have just shot it in hopes that Christian Wood gets a offensive rebound. Well, Bam sold out on the closeout. There's a chance that he shoots that and just gets blocked, right? Because Bam hard helped coming over. I thought maybe, okay, what if LeBron spins off of Jimmy on that hard drive and takes a little right shoulder fade? Yeah, I would probably like to see him do that as well. But Kyle Lowry was there on the left wing, and if LeBron spins back, Kyle Lowry very likely doubles, and it still leads to a kick out for three in all likelihood, right? So at the end of the day, you generated a wide open three. And the only thing that I would say schematically that I would do different is that's textbook low man help, right? So when LeBron beats Jimmy, Bam comes over off of Christian Wood and hard helps. Highsmith has to come in and basically start to contend physically with Christian Wood underneath the basket, right? That leaves the low man. The low man Highsmith is guarding Cam Reddish in the quarter. It's an easy kick out pass, right? What I would do in that situation is I would have just inverted Taurean Prince and Cam Reddish. Put Cam Reddish on the left wing, Taurean Prince in the corner. That way, when you make that kick out pass, it's for just a much better three-point shooter because Cam Reddish is just, even in his best day, an inconsistent three-point shooter. So, again, part of that, too, is personnel. Is Cam Reddish even going to be out there in a late game situation when the team is healthy? No. So, I think it's one of those things where obviously a loss is a loss. 3-4 is objectively bad for the Lakers at this point. We're going to talk about it more here in a minute. But I wouldn't get overly hung up on a game where Anthony Davis was out, Jared Vanderbilt's out, Rui Hachimura's out, Gabe Vincent's out, Jackson Hayes is out. Anthony Davis goes down with an injury, so you're psychologically hurt by that, and you claw all the way back to get it within 1 with 2.5 minutes left. You play perfect defense and basically shut the Heat down on all 5 possessions down the stretch while you generate 3 wide open threes. And the other 2 possessions were a pump fake 3 that Austin Reeves is capable of making and a LeBron transition drive that Kyle Lowry took a charge that usually amounts to more than a point per possession. So you executed well. You did everything you were supposed to do, and you just lost, which is something that can happen in one small sample size, especially when you spot the other team a 12-point lead in the fourth quarter. So I think really hyper-focusing on that one possession and one decision from LeBron in an 82-game season, especially with his pedigree, is just missing the bigger picture for what was actually kind of an encouraging late-game flurry from the Lakers, who continued to play pretty damn well when LeBron James is on the floor this season. But that said, the Lakers do have some issues. I want to quickly kind of jump into them real quick. Defensive rebounding, they give up the 3rd most second chance points allowed in the league per 100 possessions. That's a problem. They're giving up 18 points per game, second chance points. But again, all the forwards are out. Rui Hachimura's out. Jared Vanderbilt's out. Taurean Prince was out until this game. They just don't have the, you need, in order to contend in long rebound situations, athletes. And outside of LeBron James and Anthony Davis, they're playing deep down the bench athletes. So it's a lot of Max Christie. It's a lot of Cam Reddish, guys that are probably not going to be in the rotation when this team is healthy. So, again, it's an issue in the short term. I don't think necessarily it's going to be an issue in the long term, at least not a significant issue. When they're healthy and they have Jared Vanderbilt or Rui Hachimura out there, I think they're going to be in a lot better shape on the glass, right? Secondly, guard athleticism. There was a play I clipped and put on there where Jaime Jaquez came off of a dribble handoff and D'Lo met him right around the semicircle, and Jaime just pounded into a spin move and just knocked D'Lo out of the way and just made an easy right-handed layup. There was another Jaime Jaquez drive on Austin Reeves in the first half where he kind of got into the lane and bodied him and made a little hook shot over the top. The Jimmy Butler was attacking Austin in the post as well. That's an issue. And there's something to be said about, and this is why I think all signs point to a D'Angelo Russell trade at some point during the season. You can't have both of your guards be skill on-ball shot creators that struggle in the athleticism parts of the game. Austin's actually better than D'Lo at both. He's a better shot creator, he's a better off-ball player, and he's a better defensive player. So, like, to me, rather than having that redundancy, you move D'Angelo Russell for an athletic guard. That's why I've pitched that stupid D'Angelo Russell and Rui Hachimura in a first-round pick for DeMar DeRozan and Alex Caruso trade, because it brings in that athlete that you can put next to Austin in Alex Caruso that can be like a legitimate defensive weapon that can hang better in those areas of the game, right? And then DeMar DeRozan gives you an option if he can play at the 3, or maybe he gets in there, and even DeMar DeRozan will have a better chance to contend physically in those situations if Alex comes off the bench, right? So, like, that's a long shot trade because Alex Caruso is going to be highly sought after around the league, and the Lakers will probably have to bid for him. Same thing goes for DeMar DeRozan, but that I'm just kind of using that Chicago trade as an example of the archetype that they should be looking for, trying to partner Austin with a bigger athletic guard that excels in an off-ball dirty work role. If they can get that, then they'll do better on the defensive glass. They'll do better at the point of attack. It'll simplify the order of operations. Like, they're just better when Austin plays too. I put the numbers today, but like they were down 12 when D'Lo went out of that game, and Austin and LeBron brought him back. You know, like, they were just spamming ghost screens down the stretch of the game, right? So, like, and LeBron setting ball screens for Austin. So, like, on the season this year, when LeBron and Austin are on the floor with D'Lo off, they're plus like 20-something points per 100 possessions. I posted that stat on Twitter as well. So, like, they're just better when Austin and LeBron run the show anyway. So I think that's the move. Eventually, in the long run, they're going to have to move off of D'Lo. Good player, just a redundancy on this Laker roster, and just kind of doesn't make sense to keep on board. The next big weakness, there's 2 other weaknesses I put down. Weak side shooting. They missed those 3 wide open looks at the end of the game. They're just not shooting well. They're one of only 2 teams in the NBA shooting below 30% from 3 this season. Getting Rui Hachimura back will help, but like at the end of the day, guys just have to start shooting to their capability. D'Angelo Russell is shooting 28% from 3. He shot 41% last year. Austin Reeves shooting 31% from 3. He shot 40% last year in the regular season, 44% in the playoffs. Gabe Vincent is shooting 7% from 3. He shot 38% in the playoffs last year for Miami. Cam Reddish, 15% from 3. He was 32% last year. Max Christie, 13% from 3. He was 42% last year. So, like, these are good shooters that are just missing shots. And then even their average to below average shooters are not making anything. So, like, some of this is like, it's easy to sit on your couch and be like, oh, the Lakers don't have shooting. The Lakers don't have shooting. D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reeves, and Gabe Vincent are good shooters. Max Christie was a good shooter last year. Rui Hachimura was a good shooter last year. He's shooting okay this year already, though. But the rest of those dudes just aren't making shots that they used to make. And until they do, it's going to leave points on the board on the offensive end of the floor. That's going to be an issue. The Anthony Davis injury. I have not seen a report yet as of 4:50 Mountain Time today. But it is very poor timing because Gabe Vincent's already out, Rui Hachimura's already out, Jared Vanderbilt's already out, and now Jackson Hayes has this ankle sprain. He's out. So you don't have your backup center, your second backup center, and you don't have 2 of your most important forwards and one of your primary shot creators. So with AD out, that's basically 5 of your primary rotation players being out of the lineup. That's definitely going to be an issue. But they still have a chance to compete, and you saw that at the end of the Heat game. D'Lo, Austin, Taurean Prince, LeBron James, Christian Wood, they all did a good job fighting back into that game. They have enough size and athleticism to at least contend with some of the smaller teams. They'll struggle in specific matchups, but it is more important than ever now. Let's say that Anthony Davis is out a month or even just 2 weeks, and you got to play 7-8 games without him. It's really, really important to get Jared Vanderbilt and Rui Hachimura back and Jackson Hayes back as soon as possible. Don't be surprised if we see some Colin Castleton in the meantime. One last note on the Lakers. LeBron James, in his last 5 games, is averaging 27 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists per game. He also is averaging 2.8 steals plus blocks per game over that span as well. He is now up to 63% true shooting for the season. He's 3rd in the league in restricted area makes behind Giannis and Zion, like he always is. He's shooting 79% in the restricted area, which is higher than both of those guys. He's also up at a point per possession on jump shots, both in catch and shoot and pull-up jump shot situations. And he's 10 for 14 from the floor in the clutch, second in the league in total clutch points scored. So again, even with everything that's gone wrong this season, and the Lakers have not been good. I predicted the Lakers would win a lot of regular season games. It has not been a good start at 3-4, and it could get worse with all of the injuries, to be clear. But LeBron being this good literally matters more than any of that, because all of the other problems were fixable. The same core Lakers players were very good last year. So I am, aside from the Dennis Schroeder loss, right? So I'm not worried about their ability to eventually play very good basketball. They are going to play very good basketball. It's just a matter of if, or it's just a matter of when, not if, and getting the guys healthy and out there, right? So like, and then the D'Angelo Russell issue that we talked about earlier, that to me can be easily fixed with a trade, right? As long as it's they're picky and make the right trade, right? The forward depth piece has been solved. Obviously, you've seen as guys have been out, they've been able to at least slot in decently athletic forwards in Taurean Prince and Cam Reddish to kind of float, and Max Christie to kind of float the ship in the short term, right? But at the end of the day, like the one big piece that was unfixable, because I did not see a possible trade and I didn't see any sort of free agent signing that could address it, was over-the-top shot making. You needed LeBron James or Anthony Davis to play like a bona fide half-court superstar, which neither of them were able to do on the offensive end in the playoffs last year. LeBron looks like he's on track to potentially be that guy again this year. If he is, that solves so many of the Lakers' problems. So even with as poorly as this season has started, that's a very, very encouraging start for LeBron James. All right, guys, that is all I have for today. As always, I sincerely appreciate your support. We'll probably, with no games tonight, so we'll probably come back with just a deep dive on one or two teams tomorrow. So keep an eye on the feeds, and we'll hit that tomorrow. As always, I appreciate you guys, and I will see you then.